perspective now of an Amhara Fano leader. The Ethiopian government has at several points labeled እስክንድር a treasonist and a terrorist, and he has served time in prison for those charges. He is now the chairperson of the Amhara Fano People's Organization, and he joins us now on the phone from his home region. እስክንድር, thank you so much for joining us on the Newsmakers.
Thank you for having me.
You know what? I'll let you begin then by telling us why you wanted to appear on this program. You were on the phone out of security concerns. So what do you think needs to be said about the conflict in your region?
Well, there's this huge misconception about the Amhara word of self-defense in the international community, and that needs to be cleared. So, you know, I'm here to clear what misconceptions and misunderstandings there are about our cause. So that's why I'm here. Okay,
you've just called it a war of self-defense. So you and several other ethnic groups in the country say that you are the victims of the government's ethnic cleansing campaign. However, your critics have said that you are actually an ethno-nationalist leader seeking to bring back Amhara dominance while claiming to want national unity. So which is it?
Well, we're certainly not an ethno-nationalist organization seeking ethnic empowerment. That should be clear. In fact, on the contrary, we are fighting, identity politics, ethnic-based, hate-infused politics. So we're exactly the opposite of what is being said about us. I know that ethnic groups, both in Ethiopia and elsewhere in Africa, are, almost exclusively about ethnic empowerment, about political and economic empowerment, but not us. Because, when you look at the genesis of the Amhara struggle, if you look at the genesis of the Fano movement, it was a reaction to the state, both at the federal and at the regional level. Killing Amharas on the basis of their identity in the thousands, in hundreds of thousands, by the way.
Okay.
So we reacted to mass killings by the state against the Amharas.
So what then about the
our
claims?
Genesis is different.
I'm sorry. What about the claims then that Fano forces, your forces, are now working with the TPLF and with Eritrean forces, your former enemies, to bring down Abiy Ahmed's government? Your forces have also been accused of ethnically cleansing Tigrayans, we must mention, during the war there, in regions that you actually claim to be part of Amhara.
Well, I mean, this is, there's so much that's being said because this is the age of the internet. And if you have social media, all sorts of things could be said about you, about the group. But this is not unique for us. I think this is a worldwide phenomenon. But as to the charge that we're working with the TPLF, that's completely incorrect, and I state that categorically. As far as our survival, the means through which we are fighting the government, it should be clear that we do not, have an external supporter. We are sustaining this struggle on the shoulders of the farmers, who constitute, about 85% of the population, of the Amhara population. On top of that, we have some donations from the diaspora, a small amount. And of course, we rely for munitions from the battlefield, from what we capture from government troops. So it should be clear that we're very self-sufficient. It's a very self-sufficient movement. We do not rely on external support for defending ourselves from genocide.
Okay, then explain more about what is actually happening to your people now, including the civilians in your area, because the director of the International Committee of the Red Cross actually told us in our report that they are facing, as he said, an avalanche of requests and humanitarian needs and transporting critically injured patients for treatments and surgeries. Are you in large part then responsible for that by taking up arms in this fight?
No, we're not. We're not. It's the government. The government attacked us, and we had no choice but to defend ourselves. Like I said, on the basis of our ethnicity. This is mass killings, irrespective of who we are. The children, there was no exception for infants. There was no exception for pregnant women. There was no exception for elderly people. The government, and we did not resort to force of arms. We did not resort to, defending ourselves through force of arms, at first. What we tried to do was to solve the problem through peaceful means. And when that did not, produce results, when that did not work, we had to defend ourselves.
Okay. But,
by force of arms. And what I'm saying is, so we are not responsible for the humanitarian crisis that's happening in that region. Yes, there's a humanitarian crisis, but the political and morally and politically, the party that's responsible for this is the government, the genocidal governments that's attacking its own citizens on the basis of ethnicity.
Okay, but then the term ethno-nationalism is constantly used to describe your movement. That term alone does not infer a group that wants unity with other tribes across Ethiopia, and many accuse you of wanting an independent Amhara nationalist state.
That's just completely, that's baloney. I'm sorry for using this word, but that's complete baloney. That's an American expression, but that's completely false. We're not seeking for independence. We're not an ethno-nationalist organization that wants to build walls between ethnic groups. In fact, we want the walls that has been erected by the government between ethnic groups to fall. We want to build bridges. We are constituted and we, along ethnic lines because we are defending ourselves from an ethnically, from an ethnic-based attacks by the state. But we see that the solution is not in ethnicity. We see that the solution is not in identity politics. Ethiopia has to move beyond ethnic politics. We believe in that. So this is like, this is like an antidote to the politicization of ethnicity. That's our ultimate goal. But to do that, first we have to defend ourselves. We have to defend ourselves on the basis of ethnicity. But the end result, we recognize that the end result, that the way for this nation to come out of this crisis, out of this permanent, cycle of war, is to move the country and the nation, our politics, beyond ethnicity. We need to de-emphasize the politicization of identity. So we need a politics based on ideas. We need the normalization of our politics. We need to go into the mainstream, into the African mainstream. And the African mainstream is that, and the identity politics is discouraged by the state.
What you're describing
constitutionally.
Sure.
And that's what we want.
That sounds ideal.
That's what we want.
That sounds ideal. But please explain how organizations like yours can coexist with fellow ethnic and tribal groups and their respective militias if each of you wants recognition for historic grievances while also claiming you're the victims of, human rights abuses, not just by the government, but also by other competing ethnic militia?
Well, we want to forge an alliance with other ethnic and Ethiopian forces, and even regional forces, by the way, that wants to de-emphasize, like I said, ethnic politics, that wants to move both Ethiopia and the region, the Horn of Africa, beyond ethnic politics. And as it's done elsewhere in Africa, in Ethiopia, what has been done is there's a constitutional entanglement. There's constitutional marriage between ethnicity, identity politics, and the Constitution. Constitutional mandate. We need to change the Constitution, and we need a Constitution that does not, that does not encourage ethnic politics, identity politics. So, how do we, partner with other tribal groups, like you said, and other ethnic groups and other political forces, if they have a vision, if they believe that the nation needs to go beyond ethnic politics, if they believe that, that the genesis of our problem revolves around identity politics, and if they want to move the country, beyond identity politics, then we could partner and move this country out of ethnicity, out of the politics of ethnicity, out of the politics of identity. So that will be the basis. That will be the basis of our alliance. We need partners who hate identity politics, who do not believe in identity politics, and who see that this country needs to move beyond identity politics.
Okay, then so, you in particular would have to let go of any past grievances and a horrific conflict with Tigrayan forces that Amhara forces were involved in. Do you believe really that all of these groups would be willing to let go of the past, the very recent past in some cases, perhaps grant amnesties and move on?
Of course, why not? We have to move on. We can't be tied to our back history. We can't be, we shouldn't be prisoners of history, of our back history. We should be looking forward.
Okay.
But the problem is just you have mentioned some organizations, the ethnic-based organizations in Ethiopia believe in ethnic politics. They believe in perpetuating ethnic politics. They want they want the constitution. They don't want to change the constitution. Almost all ethnic-based organizations, except the Fano movement, except the Amhara-based ethnic organizations, want to preserve the constitution, which mandates, which insists that, the country's politics should be on the basis of identity, particularly ethnicity. That the constitution has created this ethnic enclaves.
Okay.
And what it has done is fractured the country. We do not have a federation. What we have is a fractured. So we need to change the constitution, and we need a constitution like other African countries that emphasizes, that discourages ethnic politics. That's what we're saying, and we need Ethiopian forces that accept us. We need regional forces that see things like we do, and we need international partners.
Okay.
That would help us to move the country beyond ethnic politics. Unless we move out of ethnic politics, this will eventuate. The final story. The final story of this crisis will be genocide on a mass scale, even worse than what had happened in Rwanda.
Iskandar
So
Nega.
now is the time. Yeah.
Okay, that will unfortunately have to be the final word for this segment of the Newsmakers. I greatly appreciate you sharing your insights and your feelings on this conflict. Thank you so much.